Okay, we're back on Hypno Talk with Joy Mind Hypnotherapy. I'm here with one of my favorite hypnotherapists. I really do love every interaction that I have with Suzanne. She's been at the company for not even super long, but has had, I think, close to 2,000 sessions already, which is insane. People love you. You have such a wide versatility in who you're able to work with. Her sessions include a beautiful blend of sound healing and breath work. So, not just hypnosis, a little bit of other modalities just to really maximize that subconscious healing and give you that sensory experience while you're in sessions. I'll have Suzanne introduce herself a little bit more. And today's topic is actually going to be on theory of mind. So if you don't know what that is, this is a really, really good episode to get the full ins and outs of hypnotherapy.
Thank you so much, Hilay. Okay, yes. So I'm Suzanne Britton. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist with a diploma in mind-body psychology. So I have a little extra schooling than, some of the other hypnotherapists out there. But one of the things that I like to work on with people is their mindset. A lot of people get stuck or they feel like they can't move forward in something, or they're stuck in situations that they'd like to get out of, but they have sort of an anxious attachment style. So I deal a lot with attachment styles. I deal a lot with people who'd like to quit smoking or weight loss. But a lot of it comes from what we're going to talk about, which is theory of mind.
Yeah, let's hear about this is actually the essence of why hypnosis works. It's not magic. There's actually a theory behind this
Right.
process. Let's hear about it.
True. So theory of mind is all about figuring out why you get these looping, ruminating thoughts, why you keep thinking shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And keep thinking of the what ifs. Between 0 and 8 years old, you're basically a sponge. You're just sucking in information from everybody around you, right? Because between 0 and 8 years old, you have parents, you have teachers and siblings and aunts and uncles and all these people telling you who you should be, what you should be, what you should say, how you should behave, what you should do. And you're just taking it in as truth. You're not saying, I shouldn't do that. These are the reasons why I can't do that. No, between 0 and 8, you don't have a critical thinking mind. All you're doing is sort of acting from impulse, but you're taking in all this information as your core truths, your known associations. And in those known associations, you have lots of positive ones you're learning and lots of negative ones you're learning. So perhaps you had a neighbor and the neighbor had a dog and the dog bit you between 0 and 8 years old, say when you were 5. So now dogs are bad. You're thinking that's, they have ears and they're fluffy and they have teeth and they bite. And so all dogs are bad. Perhaps as a positive association, you had a friend, Susie. You went to her house, you played games, you had fun, and her mom made cookies. So cookies mean fun and they taste delicious. So cookies are great, dogs are bad. And in between 0 and 8 years old, all you're doing is taking in information just like that. All the negative ones and all the positive ones. So you're forming your known associations of what is true and what basically is not, because you're experiencing it as a little sponge. You're just taking it in. Then after 8 years old, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now you're riding your bike, you're meeting new people, you're developing your critical mind, you're developing your conscious, making up your own mind. So you are meeting other people that you like or you don't like. You're meeting dogs now. You've met other dogs along the way. You like dogs actually, but be careful. They bite. Cookies. You're not going to eat a box of cookies before a meal. You have willpower now. And consciously that's not the right thing to do. So now you have analysis and you're balancing and you've got logic and you're weighing things out, making decisions for yourself. You're deciding for yourself what you like and what you don't like. Now, here's where your subconscious and your conscious start to fight. So you're consciously thinking, okay, I've taken up this feeling of anxiety, and maybe you've got midterms, or maybe you've got a stressful job or marriage or whatever it is. You're feeling anxious. So anxiety is your issue. So if anxiety is your issue, your subconscious mind is saying, I have to stay anxious to protect myself. No matter what it is, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, I'm going to have all those things protect me just in case. I will be prepared if something happens. But it's a lie, because you don't need to feel on edge to be prepared. But your critical thinking mind is saying, look, I need to let go of this anxiety. If I can let go of this anxiety, then I'm going to be better. But your subconscious mind says, no, 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 no. I rule. I'm almost 90% of how you think, feel, and what you do. So I'm saying I'm going to protect you by making you anxious and keep ruminating about the stuff that's bothering you just to keep you alert. So your conscious mind doesn't have a chance because it's really only 10 to 12% of what you're thinking with. So in hypnosis, what I do is I put you into a trance like state. You're fully aware, you're in control, and I drip in all these like healing thoughts and positive suggestions to help you feel like you are now in control because you always are. So when you're in this trance like state, I'm dripping in all of these healing and positive thoughts into your mind. But these are already things we've already spoken about, right? Maybe in session. Things like, I want to feel less anxious. I want to feel like I'm in control. I want to feel like I can have the power over myself when I'm, awake or when I'm sleeping. I want to be able to let go. How can I do that? We discuss all that beforehand, and then I drip in all of these amazing suggestions and thoughts to bypass your critical thinking mind because it's useless and go right into your known associations and change the neuroplasticity of your brain, change those neural pathways to now let go of those limiting beliefs and those feelings that you're not in control and put you in the driver's seat of your own life.
I love your very simple example. Okay, bad experience with dogs, and then suddenly dogs equals bad, danger, anxiety comes up if I hear that a friend has a dog and I have to go over to their house. Let's take it into a deeper example. So you said you do work a lot with attachments and relationship issues, probably. So where does that show up? What have you learned maybe in 0 to 8 years old that ends up in your adult life and actually keeps you trapped in this cycle of like, why am I not getting it right?
Yes, that's a great question. The avoidance, the anxious attachments. When you are between 0 and 8 years old, and maybe even sometimes a little older too, if you're watching your parents fight, if you're learning that you need to perform to get love, if you're learning that you need to shelter yourself away, if you're angry because your parents told you you're not allowed to be angry, if you don't feel safe when you're a little kid to go somewhere with your feelings, it's going to make you feel anxious. If you weren't told you're loved, if you weren't told that you are smart and you're a wonderful child, and you're just learning to hide yourself away, or that you notice that love is pain or love is hurt, it's going to make you anxious. But you're noticing that the style of which you're learning to attach. So if you are learning that if you're feeling upset or depressed or angry, or you're watching all of this happen in your home life and you're saying, okay, I feel anxious, but I still love my parents. I feel anxious and they're making me feel anxious, but I still see that if I don't hold on to this relationship with everything I have, that I'm going to get left. And so that's how an anxious attachment starts to form.
How do we get rid of that as an adult if it's imprinted in us from childhood?
I'm going to reparent you, and I'm going to bring you up happy, healthy, and whole, knowing that you don't need to anxiously attach to someone to be loved, that you can sit in your power and you can sit in your knowledge that you are good and you are lovable and you are worthy. You don't have to perform to be loved. You can just be you.
Yeah, and I think this is where hypnosis really deviates from every other path. I know the first time I ever did a inner child hypnosis, it was just like tears and it felt so cathartic. I really felt like I was a different person after that experience. And maybe people who have not familiar with inner child work, let's talk about that a little bit because it's kind of mysterious, but it actually really does change the direction of how you walk and how you move and speak through the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Inner child work is also some shadow work, but inner child work allows you to make everything okay, everything better, everything soften. Once you wrap your adult arms around your little child self and do that work, now you can let go of needing to perform or needing to feel like you have to be someone else in order to be chosen. A lot of people's parents leave them when they're little kids and they feel like it's their fault. So now they're left with this abandonment issue, which is another reason why people have this attachment, this anxious attachment style. Is they've been left when they were little kids. And when you do that inner child work, you're allowing yourself to say, Okay, adult self, tell your little child self that you were never the problem. Nothing was your fault. You couldn't have prevented any of it. You were just a little kid. So just know that you are now safe. And everything you did when you were little was what you had to do to protect yourself. But now you're safe to let it go. And once they feel that release of, "Oh, okay, it's not my fault. I didn't cause this." Even though you consciously get it, okay, of course I was only, 5 or 7. Of course it wasn't me. But back then, you thought it was you. Your subconscious believed and imprinted on you it was your fault. But then you got older and you're like, okay, I know it's really not my fault, but that's still stuck. That's why hypnotherapy is so crucial for these types of attachments and these types of memories because they get stuck in your subconscious. They become the things like that 88 to 90% that drives your conscious beliefs.
So once you come to this realization that every part of who you are had to do with the caretakers, your parents, the babysitters, interaction with you, all these people that were supposed to be responsible and supposed to love you. Maybe they tried to love you, but they may have not done it the best way. And there's this moment of like anger that comes up probably and that resentment of everybody messed me up. Everyone made me this way. And having to actually get past that to take ownership and reclaim your life and actually feel like they are no longer in control of your future, even though they may have had such an influence on your past. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, so the past doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Pretend there's a steel door that is right behind you. And behind that steel door is everything in your past. Now, you can learn from the past. You've got lessons from the past, good memories from the past. Good, take those. Learn those lessons, take what you need. Everything else, shove it behind that door and lock it shut, weld it, whatever you have to do in your mind's eye, because the past doesn't matter anymore. Whatever happened to you happened. And now it's time to let it go. And the future doesn't exist anymore. And the tomorrow doesn't exist anymore. It's just always there. All you have is right now, this moment, every time you wake up and you take a breath. And anger is just poison that you're drinking and expecting somebody else to die. There's healthy anger. Sure, if you mess with my kid, we're going to have a problem. Or someone I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if someone cuts you off in traffic, why are you getting angry? Let it go. Doesn't serve you. And they're not going to care. If you let it go, it gives you this sort of freedom. Wait a minute. I don't have to be mad. I don't have to be angry. No, you don't. It's a choice. Every feeling you have, every emotion is usually a choice. Someone passes that you love, there's a knee-jerk reaction. You're going to cry. It's sad. Not as much of a choice. But if someone cuts you off in traffic or if someone calls you a bad name or treats you badly, it is always a choice how you respond. Always. And that's important too. Don't react. Don't react to things. Respond. Reaction usually is a knee-jerk thing. If you're always in reaction, then you're sort of always in primitive mind. You're sort of always in this sort of, anxiety. If you respond, because there's first what happens to you, then there's that space, that thought, and then you are able to attach a feeling to it, an emotion to it. It's always usually your choice. So anger is a good one to let go of.
I love what you just said, drinking the poison and expecting somebody else to feel it. That one just hits. I love that.
Because it's so true. Anger doesn't do anything for anybody. Like I said, there is healthy anger. You need to conjure it up to protect someone, to protect yourself. Why are you allowing yourself to get angry when not necessary? When couples come to me and they're fighting. What are you fighting about? There's nothing to fight about. There's nothing to be angry about. You are a grown adult. You have your adult words. You're making adult choices. Why are you so upset? What's making you so angry that you out? Usually childhood stuff.
Like you said, it's like a little bit of a tantrum. We often, when we're in relationships, we just reenact how we were as a child with our parents, which sounds odd, but it really is the reality. We become our child self when we're with a partner. And if the child self has all this bottled up anger and didn't get to let out a tantrum or always let out a tantrum to get something, that becomes the norm for love and deeper connection in adult relationships.
So true, because when you were a kid, what were you told when you were a kid? You're not allowed to be angry. Why are you so upset? What do you have to be angry about? Go to your room. Don't be angry. You're not allowed to be angry with me. I'm your parent. Only I can get angry. You can't get angry. So now you're a kid, you're angry, and you don't have a safe place to go. You're a child. I'm an adult. What are you angry about? A million things, right? A million things to be angry about when you're a kid because you don't really know how else to process it. But if you're told to shove it down, let it go, don't process it, now you don't feel safe going to anyone with your emotions, especially your parents. It's always good when you're a parent to give your child a safe place to be angry, to cry, to not shame them for crying. Tears are alchemy. We should all be crying, especially right now. Let's all cry.
I want to touch on parenting as well, because, I imagine that if you have one experience of childhood, you either replicate it, sometimes accidentally, even if there are things that you didn't agree with your parents, or maybe you go the complete opposite way. Like, I want to be nothing like how my parents were. And perhaps even you go to the opposite extreme that may not actually be in service either. So, how does, the primitive mind show up in parenthood?
Generational trauma. So, a lot of people are like, she got the anger gene. There's no such thing. But you can emulate what parents did and how they behaved. I always said, I don't want to be like my father. He was always angry. Something. It didn't matter what it was. He was just always pissed. So I said, I'm not going to be like that with my kid. But you catch yourself because it's what you saw. It's what you know. It's how things happened and how they got done. If I get angry enough, he's going to do what I want. It's the opposite. You're catching bees with honey, not with vinegar. And I think so many people misunderstand. They don't understand why they're angry or why they're growing up this way when they fought so hard to not be like my parents. It's because it's what your homeostasis was. It's what you saw. It's what you were taught. So you're stuck in this sort of old homeostasis, this old way of thinking because it made you comfortable. If you grew up in a chaotic home, that's your homeostasis, chaos. If you saw a man in your home, like your father, hurting your mother or yelling or being angry, that is your normal. That's your homeostasis. The job of the hypnotherapist is to take you out of that old homeostasis and put you in a new homeostasis that feels parasympathetic, calm, relaxing, your new way of living. Because you're always going to choose the chaos if you don't learn to let it go.
I think I remember reading something about how, children that grew up in chaos are just so hyper aware of every emotion. So if their partner is maybe having a slightly off day that may have nothing to do with you, they become hyper sensitive to what's going on here and ready to brace themselves for any kind of reaction that may have nothing to do with the relationship or that person. And that affects us.
It's true. When you see abuse in your home growing up, or if yelling was the norm, you have to start reading people. You have to read your parents when you're little. What's his face gonna look like when he walks in the door? Wait till your father gets home. How many times have we ever heard that growing up? You have to read people in order to trust yourself, to get those cues. That's how you learn how to protect yourself, is reading people's facial expressions and kind of protecting yourself. That's where primitive mind comes in: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. How do I protect myself before I need to protect myself? Always reactionary or in protective mode.
I want to recap all of that because I think that's the most important thing to really take home from this, is that we live with this caveman mind, this live, die, survive at any point of our day, even if we're deciding what to eat for lunch or, making our way to work in the car. All of that is naturally the primitive mind. And we have to take an effort to walk away from that. This is why hypnotherapy isn't this magic wand. It's working with the primitive mind that is currently already controlling your life.
Correct. We're putting out the fire. That's what we're doing. We're putting out the fire of all of those negative ruminating thoughts and just letting you live comfortably and in peace. Our clients say, you help me, you help me. No, no, no. I'm just chirping in your ear. You're the one doing all the work. I'm just guiding you, but you're the one that's healing yourself. And that's why hypnotherapy is great, because we're actually putting the control into the client's hands and in their mind.
I love that. I want to close out with just a little bit about your practice specifically, because you have a very unique blend, and I know you love sound. You have a background in singing yourself, which is why your voice is well loved. Tell us a little bit about your style, if anybody feels inspired to work with you, and what that experience is like.
I have my Tibetan sound bowl that I use as a deepener. So every time I go bong, it kind of makes people go a little bit deeper. It makes them feel safe because it's in the key of D, which hits right here in your solar plexus. So it calms you down. And breath work is also another wonderful modality that I use to help people go deeper before I put them into hypnosis, because it kind of revs them up and relaxes them at the same time. And then they drop right into hypnosis very quickly. But I do use sound a lot because frequency is what we're always putting off, right? Negative or positive. We want all this positive frequency we're putting off. That's why I use sound frequency a lot, to put everybody in more of a positive state of mind, and what they're putting out too. Yeah. I'd say that the biggest takeaway from any hypnotherapy session is to just be kind to yourself. Say only nice things to yourself, because the alternative is not going to help you. Say positive, nice things, put out positive things about yourself. Even if sometimes you don't believe it, say it anyway. Positive speak is so important about yourself. Yeah.